Welcoming you back to another gentle yoga session today. Allowing yourself to start from a comfortable seat, whatever that might look like for you. Feeling free to add any supports beneath the seat, blanket or bolster, cushion, throw pillow, whatever might be handy. Maybe even just allowing yourself to sit with the earth, sit on the earth itself. Finding a tall posture, we're starting to attend to kind of the stature of the upper body. Maybe noticing that you can take some time to consciously stack the spine, maybe even playing a little bit with what that balance looks like in the upper body, tilting a little bit side to side, or front and back, finding that place where the spine feels like a natural lift to it. Taking some of the energy up through the crown of the head, allowing ourselves to also extend through the back of the neck. Allowing the shoulders to gently rest away from the ears. You might have to shrug or move the shoulders a few times here just to encourage them to settle down. Take some space. And inviting breath to come into the body, low and deep. Turning the awareness to the breath, maybe for the first time today, maybe not. Maybe you've been here already. Giving yourself time now to again orient to the breath. Starting to notice the gentle inhale, the full exhale. Noticing that as each breath completes, there's another one that's ready to come in. Once we've taken that breath, we need to move it back out of ourselves. That practice of letting go. And attuning to this being a cycle. There's a gentle rhythm here, a biological rhythm of our breath. Sometimes we shift the pattern of the rhythm, shifting the length of time on inhales or exhales. But regardless of what we might choose to give ourselves with this breath, we're giving attention to the fact that the breath flows through us, sustains us with life force and energy. Without this breath, nothing else in our lives would be possible. So for a moment, just kind of wiping away or sweeping away all the other factors of life, the complications, the challenges, the things maybe we disagree or dislike. Settling back into this space where no matter what comes, we know that this life is a gift, and we're choosing to live each breath, at least for the next hour or so. Maybe from this place, then that practice can extend into the rest of our day in life. Continuing to be aware of how we are in our bodies, how we hold ourselves as we greet the world and do our good work, how we treat ourselves, both physically in mindful movement, as well as mentally and emotionally. How do we talk to ourselves or treat ourselves in our minds? Are we encouraging of our best efforts? Or are we constantly trying to criticize our way to perfection? Just allowing ourselves to take that gentle step back and be aware of some of those patterns and habits. Coming back to this place where we are just animals, organisms, living beings, doing our best, and making our way through the world one step at a time and truly one breath at a time. As we give ourselves this chance to be with our breath, maybe lifting the arms out and up with the inhale if you choose to. Could be lifting from the shoulder. You might instead lift from the elbow or just gently lift the hands a few inches off the lap. With the exhale, slowly letting those arms release or the hands release, depending on your practice. Dropping into your own pattern and rhythm. It doesn't have to match mine. Allowing yourself to extend the arms up with the inhale. And with the full exhale, movement through the arms back down. It might be that you have to slow down that movement or match the breath in slowness. Allowing ourselves to take time to notice each phase of this breath, how it moves through our bodies, if we can add more depth. Maybe softening through the low belly, softening down into the hips and the seat. Maybe with the next breath, releasing any tension in the legs. Allowing some of those big muscles to soften and receive this breath as well. Maybe with the next breath, allowing the low legs to soften. Maybe the feet and the toes expand a little bit with the breath here. Good. Allowing yourself maybe to take the gaze high with the next inhale. We can add energy to ourselves by taking the gaze up. Exhaling, if we want to release any energy, taking the gaze down is a good way of doing that. Maybe we just gently add a little bit of a tilt of the neck or the head with the gaze. Maybe we notice our hands coming close together, even touching up above our heads. Maybe with the exhale, we honor our contact with the earth. Maybe taking another couple of rounds here. And two, in balancing that energy, if we have excess energy or anxiety, maybe we just keep the gaze down. If we are feeling kind of slumped or blue, maybe we just keep the gaze up. These are ways that we can choose to be with our energy and meet what we need most. Depending on where you're at today, you might treat yourself a little bit differently in this practice. We'll introduce this concept of grounding the gaze or raising the gaze. From here, maybe just drawing the hands into heart center. You might close the eyes here or just gently soften the gaze down to a relaxed place. Maybe drawing the base of the thumbs into the heart, really feeling a little bit of pressure or connection here. You can even circle the hands a little bit, rubbing into this spot. It's a acupressure point, and I can't remember the name right now, but we can stimulate a little bit here, the space right above the heart chakra. A little bit of circular movements or just a little bit of pressure here can create that connection for us. Drawing the breath into this space and inviting any intention that you might have for your practice here today. Maybe a small word or phrase that is meaningful to you, allowing that energy to connect in mind, heart, and body. Breathing in each of those intentions a little bit more with every breath. When we're ready, maybe lowering the hands toward the lap or toward the knees. And inviting some seated cat-cow for a warm-up today. If your legs have been crossed, you might even reverse the direction of the cross at this time, or you can change the shape of the legs in any way that feels best for you. As we take an inhale, we open the belly, the chest, the neck, or the throat here, gaze lifting high. With the exhale, rounding the back, tucking the chin, tucking the tailbone under perhaps, squeezing out the breath. Inhaling to open, create space in the front of the body. Exhaling, releasing into a back stretch, squeezing out the breath. Good. Maybe taking 3 or so more rounds like this. Depending on your speed, might be more, might be less. There's no judgment for whatever pace or depth you take. It's just finding what you need here and honoring your own truth. Releasing some of those expectations of ourselves. Releasing any need to compare ourselves with anyone else or even ourselves. Letting go of any sort of competition in this place. The only thing that matters is being true to our own bodies. And you feel good through that practice, maybe rising back up to neutral spine, maybe taking some shoulder roll here if that feels good to you. can rotate the shoulders the other direction if you wish, taking some movement the other way. You can choose what that balance looks like. Maybe it's even length of time one direction and then the other. If you have a preference for rolling one way, that's okay to spend a little bit more time there. Good. Inviting a little bit of shoulder stretch and arm stretch here today. Taking a clasp of the hands behind the back so we can interlace those fingers behind us into a fist. Okay. And allowing ourselves to take both fists maybe over to the right side to start. So just anchoring down on the right side of the hip there. The right elbow can tend to stick out like a chicken wing, so we want to just tuck that right elbow behind us. You might notice a little bit of that stretch intensifying through the left shoulder. So starting with that nice tall lift through the crown of the head. That might be enough stretch for you right there. If you need a little bit more, you can, a couple of options, tilt the right ear toward the right shoulder, creating some more space in the neck. Or you might choose to look around the shoulder, taking a little bit of a twist through the upper spine. So you might find one of those options that feels good for you. You might explore other ways of being here. Maybe finding something just unique to yourself today. Wherever you are, continuing to lift up through the heart, keeping the spine nice and long and the breath receiving through the whole body. Maybe taking one more inhale or so here if you like it. Full exhale. Maybe returning the chin back to neutral here. Releasing the fists from the right side. Maybe even taking the arms back behind you. Maybe even lifting the hands away from the hips or flipping the palms under to create a little bit more stretch through the shoulder girdle. So that's an option here. Maybe you just relax the hands. Maybe you need to separate the hands and shake them out. Take a little bit of movement. That might be an option that feels right for you right here. So just whatever in transition you can sense that you need right now. And when you're ready to take it to the second side, either bringing those hands back together in the fist or switching them over to the left side here. Again, you can choose to reverse the cross of the legs. So fists here onto the left side of the hip. Left elbow, instead of sticking out, we tuck it back behind us. Maybe noticing that sense of stretch there in the right shoulder this time. And then maybe taking any option that feels good to you. It could be a tilt of the left ear toward the left shoulder. Taking the gaze around behind the shoulder here. Anything else that feels like a positive action for your body. Maybe you're noticing some spaces that feel kind of tight or closed, giving yourself the option to breathe into that and accept that that's where we're starting. Not fighting it, not criticizing ourselves, but just accepting that wherever we start is the right place to begin. And then just giving breath here, slowly creating space one moment at a time. Another breath or two as you like. Finding yourself maybe rising back up on an exhale. Chin can come back to neutral. Hands can release. Maybe again you take that stretch of the arms behind you. A little bit of a shoulder rinse there. Hands lifting away from the low body. Maybe you just release those arms. Shake it out. Give yourself some movement there through the shoulders, the elbows. Maybe shaking through the wrists and hands a little bit here. Very good. Taking a little bit of stretch across the shoulder. So drawing the right arm across the chest. Just gently drawing it a little bit closer with the back of the left hand perhaps. You can choose how much you extend through that right arm. A little bit of softness in the elbow might decrease the intensity here. So choosing what feels good. Noticing that we can purposefully drop the right shoulder away from the ear and add some more of that stretch maybe to the top of the shoulder. Giving yourself a few breaths in this place, maybe even a slight smile. Or releasing some of the tension from the brow, or the jaw. Maybe a couple more breaths here, noticing if you're in that deep place of stretch, if that's too much. You can back out or soften a little bit. When you're ready to release the right arm, you're taking it back out to the side. Maybe you take a couple shoulder rolls here, just to release any tension, any space that needs more movement. Good. Setting up for the second side. Anytime you're ready, no rush. You know where we're going. So extending through the left arm this time, purposefully dropping that shoulder away from the ear. Extending through the left arm and then drawing it close into the chest, using a little bit of gentle pressure on the back of the right hand. Still lifting up through the crown of the head, attending to lengthen the spine. Present with yourself and your breath here. Noticing as well if there is too much stretch or too much intensity, you can always back out 5%, 10%. So finding a place of healthy stretch for yourself. Giving lots of breath into this place. Good. Choosing when you're ready to release the left arm as well, maybe taking a couple shoulder rolls or any movements that feel good to you here on the side. Very nice. We'll take a nice big sweeping breath. Maybe the gaze comes up here. Maybe allowing ourselves to clasp or interlace those fingers once again, flipping the palms up toward the ceiling perhaps. If the gaze stays high, again, we're adding energy. Maybe creating some chance to lift ourselves out of a slump or a low mood. Alternatively, if you have too much energy or anxiety, maybe you take the gaze low. Notice how you can ground that gaze. Focus on the base, focus on the earth. Maybe taking one more nice deep breath here, stretching those hands high. With the exhale, maybe coming to release those hands back down. Good. A little bit of shoulder roll here if you like it. Working out any tension. We'll go ahead and adjust here toward hands and knees, or forearms and knees if that's the choice you want to make today. You can draw a blanket underneath the knees for a little bit of extra cushion or support if that feels good to you. You can even cushion the wrists if you have sensitive wrists by folding the mat back into a triple stack, making sure the thick part is on the heel of the hand, right there on the base of the palm, and the fingers are allowed to kind of flow down to that lower portion. We might invite here a little bit of a shift side to side in the hips. If you have very sensitive wrists, you want to be down on the forearms, just taking it to the elbows here, maybe drawing those hips side to side. Good. Inviting a big circle if you like to. Taking the tailbone in a big circle, one direction perhaps. Or you might alternate. Every other circle is a different direction. I like to take about 4 or 5 on the first side. And then switch directions. And take a few more the other way. So just balancing our way of inviting the body into this movement. Sometimes we can get in the pattern of doing one thing with one side of the body all of the time in one way. We're just inviting ourselves to have some alternatives. Good. From here, bringing the hips back to center, right over the knees. Inviting ourselves into a melted heart or a puppy dog pose. Walking the hands forward and taking the forehead down toward the floor. Sinking the heart down through the chest toward the floor as well. Maybe relaxing into the shoulders a little bit. If it's very intense here, you can bend into one elbow at a time. So kind of like a figure 4 shape in the hands. If you need one hand to just kind of be soft or one shoulder to kind of be soft. Taking some breath on the first side. Maybe allowing yourself to switch hands if you are doing one at a time. Or noticing if you can just soften into the shoulders a little bit more. This is a very grounding shape. The forehead in connection with the earth helps us to release any mental energy, strain, anything we might be wrestling with. Go ahead and just let that ease out of yourself and into the earth. Maybe taking 1 or 2 more breaths here as you choose. Ready to make a change. Walking those hands back beneath the shoulders or those forearms beneath the shoulders. Good. An option to rise the right leg straight back behind, pressing the heel away. Starting to find some 3-legged table balance. If that feels strong for you, you might also lift the left hand off the ground. So opposite arm and leg. Rising up. Actually, I saw a new name for the shape. It was the tiger pose. I've never heard that before. But giving ourselves maybe a chance to be like a stealthy tiger, holding still in the jungle. Maybe we're fixing the gaze on something that's not moving to help with the balance. Maybe reaching through the arm and leg as an extension of the spine. Creating length through the body, energy, both forward and back. Good. Maybe taking 1 more breath here, maybe 1 more lift if you like. With the exhale, maybe gently grounding hand and knee. Good. You can take a little bit of a shift side to side. Give your wrists a break if you need to, coming off of the hands, maybe taking some wrist circles instead. Good. We'll go ahead and take it to the second side as you feel ready. Coming back down to ground. This time rising the left leg off the floor, heel pressing back behind you. Taking the chance to lower the shoulders away from the ears. So we're still establishing the nice long spine. Starting first by finding that pointed balance on 3 legs. And then consciously choosing for yourself what that next level might look like. Maybe it's to stay here. Maybe you start to walk the 5 fingertips out in front a little bit. Maybe it's 1 fingertip that's grounded. Maybe you're feeling confident and able to lift the arm fully. So lots of different ways of breaking it down and taking it slowly. There's no expectation even once you hit a certain level that you stay there. You can always track back down knowing that you've attempted and that muscle memory will stay with you. You'll make gains on where you've tried to go a little bit at a time. Focusing the breath and the strength together here. This is not an easy shape. Maybe giving it 1 more breath, lifting a little bit higher perhaps. With the exhale, gently coming back down to ground. Again, maybe taking those hips side to side, maybe coming off the wrists, giving a little bit of a shake or circles here, if you choose. Good. From this place, we'll go ahead and work into a little bit of lunge practice. So stepping the left foot forward. Here's another place where that cushion underneath the right knee might be of great service. So if you don't have that, but your knee is sensitive, maybe adding a blanket or another layer of cushion here beneath the right knee. Good, so just having that that left leg forward, you can start with the hands on the ground, or if you have blocks or books nearby, always an option to bring hands to blocks or some supports just brings the earth a little closer to you. Sometimes that can make a lot of difference in terms of how long the spine can be. If I'm trying to keep my hands on the ground, I'm compromised a little bit. But if I keep my hands on blocks, I can keep that heart lifted and moving out of the crown of the head. So choosing for yourself kind of where you like to be. You can always choose to come up a little bit higher. Hand might rest on the thigh or the hips. Other energetic options might be bringing the hands to heart center or up overhead. If you want to find extension in the arms, that's an option as well. So just noticing, we're about halfway through our practice, how much energy do you want to put into this shape right now? What does this one mean for you? Where do you want to go? If the arms are raised, are the shoulders away from the ears? Can you breathe through a little bit of stillness here? Sometimes we're taking pose after pose after pose after pose. Maybe taking the chance to slow down a little bit today. Really notice what it's like to be in each shape. Maybe noticing as the body opens a little bit at a time. Maybe you need to adjust for yourself. Those arms might get tired. You can take a new position. Inviting 2 or 3 more breaths here. Checking in with yourself if that feels okay. Maybe inviting yourself to come back to touch the hands down toward the earth or whatever blocks or supports might be present. Good. Maybe releasing that stretch from the hip flexors, sending the hip a little bit back and lengthening through the left leg. So the toes are coming back toward the face here. We call this a half split or a runner's stretch. Maybe those fingertips are on the ground or on blocks supporting you. And you can take this into a deep fold if you like to. You can move the forehead toward the knee any amount. You might notice that can intensify the stretch quite a bit. So moderating, taking only what you need here. Nothing forced. Again, 2 or 3 more breaths in this shape if you like. Choosing when you feel satisfied with the shape. Maybe inviting yourself to walk forward once again into the lunge. You can choose, maybe support stays in the hands as you send the left foot back. Maybe you're up in your tall kneel and it's easy for you to draw that foot back. Choosing for yourself. Maybe taking a little bit of movement or transition, noticing what might need to release. And then we'll go ahead and just take the same options toward the other side. So the right leg coming forward. This time maybe the hands are down on the ground for support. Again, option for blocks or hand supports here. Maybe for you, you focus on finding length in the spine, lift through the heart. Maybe the shoulders are rolling back and down actively here in this place. Maybe you take that lift so the hands come to the leg, hips, heart center, or up overhead. So again, choosing for yourself what options feel right for you. Maybe it's the same thing you picked on the first side, finding that true balance in your practice between left and right. Maybe on the second side, you purposefully choose something different to give yourself give your body that challenge of managing imbalance. Sometimes that can also be very healthy. Noticing here as we sink those hips, if enough is enough or if enough is too much. You can always back out again a little bit at a time or choose to follow any opening that the body might release. The space that it gives you to explore or to be in different places, different shapes. Maybe 2 or 3 more breaths here as you like. Choosing for yourself when you feel complete, maybe bringing those hands back to support or back to ground. Sending the hips back once again, this time maybe flexing the right toes back toward the face. Maybe noticing some stretch coming through the hamstring or the calf muscle. Maybe it's deeper into the inner workings of the pelvis and the hips, maybe into the low back a little bit. You can choose if you want to release into that forward fold, maybe taking the chin toward the chest. Maybe the forehead comes down toward the knee, any amount. Noticing that the breath is still here, still flowing. Another breath or two as you like in this shape. And when you're ready, again, we might shift hip forward toward the lunge. Maybe stepping that right foot back to meet the left here. Good. Maybe on the tall kneel, giving ourselves a little bit of movement. And inviting a bit of a shoulder rinse here. So again, coming back to clasping the hands behind the back. Maybe notice which thumb is naturally on top, and maybe reversing the cross of the hand so the other thumb comes to be on top this time. It's a little bit of a brain game there. Good. From up on the knees, we can choose to forward fold, bending at the hips, bending at the waist. Then releasing the arms away from the low body any amount. Maybe the top of the head comes to ground. If you like a little bit of stimulation there, you can choose that. You can also choose to use that core strength to just hover the body and keep lifting those arms away from the low body or from the back. Maybe letting gravity do some of the work here. Maybe one more breath. Coming to release those arms when you're ready. And gently rise back up to your tall kneel. Good. We'll make our way here towards standing. One foot can come forward. Maybe the hand braces onto the leg. Rising up to standing. You can choose to clear the mat if you prefer. As we make our way up all the way to the feet, finding our standing shape. We're just going to walk a little bit in place, noticing the feet, noticing our footfall, what points of pressure we can feel grounding. Maybe noticing that there's a lift in the arches. Maybe that space doesn't come into contact with the ground as much. Coming to settle into the stance here, finding that place where we can feel balanced and poised between the feet. Giving ourselves the chance to send some roots into the earth here. Digging our energy in, finding that balance connection with the planet. And then drawing the energy up from the roots into our bodies, starting to engage the calf muscles, lifting into the kneecaps, strengthening through the upper leg muscles, drawing them, hugging them into the bone. Maybe tucking the glutes under, or the tailbone tightly underneath. Maybe drawing the navel in toward the spine here. Option to keep the heart open, maybe the shoulders roll back and down a time or two. Settling the shoulders away from ears again. Taking that lift through the crown of the head. Good. Finding this mountain pose. Allowing ourselves to be both connected to the earth and rising from it. The body like a bridge between earth and sky here. As As we cycle that breath through nice and deep, we are literally exchanging our physical matter with the air around us, giving ourselves a chance for that exchange, taking that place, our place in the universe, in the whole of things. One more deep breath like this. Good. With the next inhale, maybe choosing to rise the arms out and up if you like. You can take the gaze high here. Even take it into a back bend if you like that shape. The exhale coming forward and down into fold. Could be flat back, ski pose, or the full forward fold. You can choose. Taking an inhale, rising here to a halfway lift if you're not there already. Extending the tailbone up toward the sky, lengthening through the hamstrings here. With the exhale, forward folding again, any depth. Inhaling, bending into the knees, rising the gaze, lifting ourselves up to standing. Again, maybe another option for a back bend at the top. And exhaling to draw the hands in toward heart center. Good. So taking that standing flow, smoothing it out, maybe dropping into your own pace. Exhale, inhaling up here to reach, and exhaling forward into fold. Rising into the halfway lift here with the inhale. Exhaling into that forward fold, any depth. Inhaling to lift the gaze, bend the knees, rise with the inhale to standing. Maybe even taking it to back bend. With the exhale, drawing the hands in toward heart center. Good. Another round. Cycling more of the deep breath through the whole body. The body is like a bellows. Like we'd fan a fire, but we're fanning the internal fire. Every time we rise, we breathe in. Every time we compress, we squeeze the breath out. We're using the movement of the body, the compression, and the space to help us power that breath through the whole self. So focusing on that as we take another round. Full inhale, reaching that breath through the whole body. With the exhale, letting go of that entire breath here. Inhaling to rise to the halfway lift. Filling up even through the bottoms of the feet. With the exhale, coming to forward fold in any amount. Squeezing out the breath. Inhaling to rise the gaze, lift the heart. Come towards standing, maybe back bend option. Exhaling, hands into center. Good, maybe another round here. One final way through space and time in this movement. Making your choices. Celebrating yourself. Finding what feels good. Good. Leaving the hands here at heart center. Maybe choosing to find a little bit of toe balance today. Pressing the palms actively together helps us to focus on the midline and keep that balance. But you can also choose, does the gaze want to stay low? Are we grounding our energy here? If the gaze wants to come high, we want to build our energy. Or if there's a third option, taking that gaze just on eye level, something still, not moving, keeping the energy in center. And then maybe trying to rise up onto the toes any amount. You might choose to lift and lower with the breath, maybe inhaling to rise and exhaling, grounding the heels back down. Maybe you choose the static option, building strength by taking yourself just to the toes. Could be that you're a centimeter lifted off the ground. Maybe you're several inches off the ground with the heels. Just choosing whatever feels right for you. Nice deep breaths, strengthening through the feet, the ankles, the low legs. All of this here, building strength, maybe finding a little wobble, that's okay. That's how we know it's happening. Allowing ourselves to release down. Also, when we're ready, finding an exhale, Grounding those heels back down, this time taking it into chair pose. So we're going to go a little bit further back and down here, taking the hips behind us. Heart stays lifted, palms are still pressing actively together. Noticing that the knees are back behind the toes and pretty much in line, side to side. Good. Maybe adding a little bit more grip strength here to the glutes, supporting through the low body. These are stabilizer muscles. Help us move through the world with grace. Good. Finding an inhale, rising back up. You can extend the arms here if you wish to, or you can leave them at heart center. Exhale, maybe releasing those hands, letting that breath go. Good. Maybe combining those shapes here. If you want to bring those hands back to heart center, you can try lifting up onto the toes a little bit first, and then sitting yourself back into a chair pose. So a little bit different. Usually we focus on the weight coming back into the heels, but this is another challenge of the balance, staying up on the balls of the feet. The ankles tend to roll out, a little bit like mine are doing. Trying instead to really keep them centered, stabilizing with the muscles. Maybe sinking a little bit lower if you feel like that confidence and challenge is there. Sometimes we can even get ourselves down into a full toe stand. We want to try it? Anybody want to try it? This is real balance. Good. When you're ready, dropping those heels back down, allowing yourselves to just rest in a forward fold. You can take any choice here. Keeping a bend in the knees if you prefer, even connecting the elbows to the knees. Or allowing yourself to hinge all the way forward, letting the head and neck be soft. Maybe nodding yes and no, checking looseness in the neck if that feels good to you. Cycling some deep breath through the body, maybe noticing in an inversion or forward fold that we have more space through the back ribs, so focusing breath into the back of the body as well. Adding a little bit of power strength here, turning the heels in toward center, in toward each other. They can be a little bit separated here if you like. Maybe keeping the hands grounded again, like blocks or books can help. Just find a hand connection to the earth. Starting to lift again onto the balls of the feet, lifting the heels off the ground a little bit. And then an option for a few frog squats here. So maybe allowing yourself to release the breath. You can choose. It's either way. Inhaling as we lower or exhaling as we lower. I'm going to exhale as I lower, and then with the inhale, rising back up with the hips, but staying on the balls of the feet. So the heels maybe never touch the ground. Good. Maybe finding that cycle of breath. Maybe inhaling as we lower and exhaling as we rise. You can choose what feels more natural for you. Concentrating some of that strength and energy in the legs. Maybe focusing around 10 rounds or so. Maybe for you it's 2 or 3 and that feels just right. Giving yourself only as much as you need. Leaving the rest for another day. Maybe you can feel a little bit of that strength building, a little bit of heat coming through the muscles. I admit I'm not counting, so I'm just going to go with the feel of it. If you're counting for yourself, well done. Maybe a couple more here. Usually by the time 10 comes, I'm pretty tapped, so let's be nice to ourselves today and not ask for too much. We'll go ahead and release those heels back into forward fold as we're ready. Maybe allowing the upper body to hang a little bit more. You can even cross the arms, the elbows here. create a little bit more weight or gravity, hanging like a rag doll, some people will say. An option from here to work our way down toward the floor, maybe grounding the hands, maybe walking the feet back toward a downward facing dog. If this is another place where you find sensitive wrists, you can always come down all the way to the forearms and elbows and rise up into what we call dolphin pose. So choosing for yourself where you like to be for today. Maybe we're pedaling the feet, maybe we're bending into the knees or swaying the hips side to side, taking whatever movements or choices feel right for you. Good, inviting a little bit of stretch through the front body, coming through a plank pose, maybe walking those feet back a little bit. Maybe you hold a plank, maybe you drop the knees for a little bit of an easier plank or a gentler plank. Might be just one breath, it might be 4 or 5 breaths, you can choose. Maybe allowing ourselves to drop those knees together if they aren't already. Also untuck the toes, so we're bringing the tops of the feet here toward the floor, releasing the hips a little bit lower and rising through the heart, coming up for a cobra pose. And here, if you would like a little bit more stretch through the front of the body, you can press the tops of the feet into the ground, lifting the knees off the mat, and this is an upward facing dog. So you might notice it's a lot of curvature in the lumbar spine. Nice deep breath through the body, maybe strengthening a little bit more through the legs here. Maybe coming to ground those knees, moving back toward child's pose so we can kind of reverse that curve of the spine, allowing ourselves to rest on the legs, upper body over top of the thighs. Forehead can come to ground or toward the earth here. Maybe it touches, maybe it doesn't. We can also always stack the fists or the palms to help make a pillow. We can leave those arms long, adding a little bit more shoulder stretch to the mix. Just choosing whatever feels right for you here and now. Inviting about 4 or 5 more breaths, just in a resting place. Noticing any stretch that you feel, any ease that can come in, any softness that you can create. Finding that final round of breath for yourself. As you're feeling ready, maybe allowing yourself to rise back through table pose, walking the hips toward the ground, coming all the way down onto the back for our closing sequence here. So hips in the center of the mat, releasing down maybe a little bit at a time, maybe one vertebra at a time. Hands can support on the legs. So we really smooth out that curve, where you can release those hands and really use core strength to make that happen. As we arrive here, inviting those knees into the chest, taking a nice hug, maybe wrapping the arms around. You can connect hands, wrists, or even touching to the elbows. If you like to rock side to side and massaging across the spine, this is an invitation here. Maybe coming to keep the hug on the right knee, Maybe grounding the left foot or the whole left leg here. Maybe just taking the right knee a little bit side to side. Different compression through the hip flexors and the front of the hip. Maybe you find a juicy spot to squeeze into and just breathe with that. An option to turn this into a reclined twist, crossing the knee over toward the left side. Any amount, could be a little, where both hips stay grounded. Maybe noticing some of that stretch through the outer right hip. Or if you want to bring more of a spinal twist into the mix, you can start to rotate that knee toward the ground, maybe even shifting the hips a little bit so the left one comes underneath the right one vertically. The right arm might come out from the shoulder behind you, maybe following the gaze toward the right hand. Allowing yourself to ease into this shape, noticing where you're holding tension or strength, and noticing if you can start to let it go or soften. Even just a little bit. Maybe you stay with that practice, being mindful of what's strong and noticing if you can soften it or ease it a little bit. Taking another couple of breaths for this practice here. Maybe softening a little bit more with every exhale. Maybe taking one final breath in this shape. When you're ready to come back towards center, gently rolling to the back. Maybe hugging that right knee into the chest once again. And then maybe bringing that left knee in along with it. Maybe both knees hug together. Good, inviting just the second side to have some time. So keeping the hug on the left knee, grounding the right foot or the whole right leg. Be just starting to shift that knee a little bit side to side, working through some of that compression for the hip flexors in the front. Noticing what it's like to stretch in this way. If there's a juicy spot you want to hold and breathe, feeling free to do so. If you would like to start to turn it into a twist, maybe drawing that left knee across the body, any amount, could be a little. Or maybe rotating a little bit deeper. Maybe the hips come to stack vertically, right hip underneath the left hip. Left knee coming toward the ground on the right side. Maybe the left arm extends out from the shoulder this time, the gaze following toward the left hand. And then gently melting in a little bit at a time. Noticing where you're holding strength and checking if you can turn that into softness. Sometimes that strength is there as a way of protecting us or holding a fear of some kind. And instead allowing ourselves to try trusting that the earth is supporting us, that we have everything we need right here and right now. Bring the focus to the breath. Noticing if anything else can be soft in this place. Finding one more breath or so for your stretch here. If you're feeling ready, maybe rotating again to the back. left knee maybe coming in for a hug. Maybe the right knee joins it. Both knees getting a nice hug together. You can invite time for any other stretches, shapes, or movements that you need now in your practice. Or checking if it feels okay to come into a final relaxation. You might release the legs long down the mat here. The arms come to rest by the sides. Maybe use a blanket covering yourself for warmth or comfort. Noticing if you can bring the gaze and the neck straight, maybe even lengthening through the back of the neck by drawing the chin toward the chest. And gently releasing the back of the head to the ground. And allowing yourself to settle into the earth for a couple of minutes. Soft and ease. You can allow yourself to ground in, sinking just a little bit deeper with every exhale. If it doesn't feel right for you to be grounded on the floor, laying down like that, you're welcome to change the position or come to a seat. Take care of yourself however you need. We'll invite just another minute or two here in softness and peace. Looking for that place to be still, where the body can integrate all the benefits of this practice. And honoring that your life is present, one breath at a time. Yourself to draw awareness back into the breath, the body, and the space around you. Connecting with any needs that you may have at this moment. Maybe it's to continue to be soft and still, relaxed and at ease. You can give yourself another 5 or 10 minutes here. It's a beautiful gift for yourself. If you feel ready for a little bit of movement, maybe starting slow with fingers and toes, circling wrists or ankles, taking the time to come back to your body, come back to movement. Maybe another hug of the knees into the chest, or wrapping the arms around yourself in a living embrace. You might choose to roll to one side, press up to a seated shape. However you feel like you would like to close the practice together, you're invited to be in whatever space is right for you. Maybe bringing to mind and heart the intention you started with this practice, or any new intention that you have now. Sealing these intentions with our voices and vibration, inviting you to join me in a chant of 3 Om or 3 Hum if you wish, starting in a deep breath. Om. wishing you well and continued strength and energy, as well as softness for yourself on your journey. Look forward to seeing you again next time, and be well.